Hello, welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. Time for the latest episode of the Mulliner and Musgrove Show with me, Andrew Musgrove, and him, Sam Mulliner. I hope you guys are all doing well. Do it, thumbs up, hit subscribe, get into the comments, leave us a rating and a review. And remember to take advantage of your NORD VPN discounted offer, no risk with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Protect yourselves, support the podcast at the same time. One subscription, 10 devices. Brilliant for when you're on public Wi-Fi to keep all your details safe. We're going to try and move on as quickly as possible from the summer transfer window and that Alexander Isak saga. And today, I think this is going to be a positive episode because we're going to pick Newcastle United's strongest starting 11 with everyone fit, the 11 players who you would pick above anyone else to help Newcastle United get 3 points. But with that in mind, Sam, I know we've said we'll move on really quickly. I'm going to challenge you to, in a sentence, answer the next 2 questions. So a sentence for each question that I ask you. First off, out of 10, quick sentence, rate the transfer window.
I knew you were going to ask me this. I asked my son this morning and he said 8. So I think that's fair enough. And I'm going to go with him.
Yeah, I've gone for 8. Did I go for 8 or 8.5? Anyway, I was happy with the way it went. And the next question, Sam, Alexander Isak, Liverpool, 125, 130 million in a sentence. Sum it up.
Dead to me. Move on.
There we go. Job done. We never have to speak about him ever again, hopefully. Right. Starting 11. Newcastle United's strongest starting 11. Really interesting because for the first time in a long, long while, they have depth in nearly every position. Quality depth as well. Of course, already we've been hit by a few injuries, which is slightly frustrating. But as I said in the introduction, this is everyone fit and firing. First off, Sam, on the depth and the quality of depth, I mean, I'm excited by this. Are you as well?
Yeah, I am. And I'll tell you for why. You compare the squad now than what it was, say, the last time we were in the Champions League 2 years ago. And it's not just the incomings that's improved the squad, but it's the players that were here 2 years ago that have come on leaps and bounds. By that, I mean mainly the young wing backs, Livramento and Hall. Livramento especially. My word, what... And if we've learned anything from this transfer window, I think the first thing to do for the new sporting director or whatever you want to call them this week is to sit down with Livramento, sit down with Tonali, maybe Lewis Hall as well, Botman, and to see where they're at, and if possible, sign them up to new long-term deals. Obviously, we didn't have Tonali much for the last campaign in the Champions League, that is. So yeah, in addition to that, where you've got competition for places, real strong competition for places. Yeah, it's good, and we are probably in a better space now than what we were kind of 2 years ago, trying to juggle a European campaign with that, trying to maintain a positive charge on the Premier League as well.
Yeah, most certainly so. And that's why I've rated the window as high as I have done, because in the positions they need to strengthen, they've done so and done so with real quality. And given Eddie Howe, I think a really strong squad to challenge on all fronts. Let's start with a goalkeeper because that is where one of the rivals have come in for. Aaron Ramsdale, of course, coming in from Southampton. I do think in time he will be Newcastle United's number 1. I think we know how good Nick Pope is at shot stopping, but he's let down by his distribution, maybe doesn't command the box as well as he should do. And look, Aaron Ramsdale, England international, he hasn't come to sit on the bench, and Eddie Howe hasn't gone out of his way to bring him to Newcastle to have him as second choice. Eddie Howe has liked him for a long time. Wasn't necessarily first choice in terms of a player to come in. That was James Trafford. But if we're talking fit and firing, not putting any time scale on it, and we're just saying this is Newcastle's strongest starting 11, then I am picking Aaron Ramsdale to be between the sticks.
Oh yeah, okay.
I am. I'm going for that.
Interesting. People get frustrated with Pope, don't they, because of his woeful kicking ability, and it does make you nervous. I can see why a lot of people will be in the comments or whatever and have a view that Ramsdale will be the long-term choice. Yeah, I think they're very, very similar ability-wise. I do. I don't really mind who's in. I have real no favourite towards it. I mean, I read. Obviously, fantastic that the transfer window is now closed and we can talk about actual football. But like I was reading, like we weren't sure on Joan Garcia and Lucas Chevalier, who have gone to be number one at Barcelona and PSG now. That's a bit. And also we were looking at Kobel as well from Dortmund, who I think is the most underrated goalkeeper in world football. But the finances at the time just couldn't make it happen. Arguably, it could now, or for January at least. But yeah, that's disappointing because all of those would, well, the two young keepers will need time, but Kobel would go on and prove to be levels above. So I don't think there's much difference between Pope and Ramsdale, to be honest. If you want to put Pope in, fine. If you want to put Ramsdale in, fine. I'm okay either way. Both have their strengths and both have their frailties as well.
Well, come on. We're going to ask the people to pick. So
Okay,
you've got
well,
to...
out of the two, if you're going to put a gun to my head and choose, I'll stick with Pope.
Okay, Nick Pope in. I guess for many, that's, even though they have strengthened in the goalkeeping department and it is an upgrade on Martin Dubravka, it's maybe not the upgrade that many fans and probably have wanted. You know, if you're going to bring in a goalkeeper and you've got everyone to choose from, the budgets, the numbers work, then you go for someone who is an instant upgrade on Nick Pope. I don't think Aaron Ramsdale is that, but I do think he's probably slightly better, but it's not, you know, another postcode for want of a better phrase. You know, it's not a big upgrade. So maybe that's where we've been slightly underwhelmed. But again, you trust Eddie Howe and his judgments. Right back then, because this is really interesting. And I think Kieran Trippier has done so well since coming in. You know, many people, myself included, were pushing him through the exit door, and he's come back with a third or fourth win now. And I think he's been really, really good. And I actually think for some, this might not be as foregone of a conclusion as it is for others. Now, obviously, Tino Livramento is Newcastle's first choice right back, but some might say, well, actually, you know, do you put Trippier at right back and Livramento at left back, where he's been absolutely brilliant? For me, it is Tino at right back and Lewis Hall at left back, but I think others might have a difference in opinion. I mean, who gets right back for you? Is it Tino?
Oh man, if you asked me that this time last year, I'd have said Trippier, no brainer. But the way Livramento has come on leaps and bounds since he's been at Newcastle. I mean, obviously the big headline the other day was that Alexander Arnold got dropped from the England squad. Livramento is in. That shouldn't be a surprise. He's unbelievable, you know. Just watching him, even like in a obviously the last time we spoke was before the Champions League draw, before Leeds. Was it before Liverpool as well?
No, just after, I think, wasn't it?
Okay, but anyway, the Leeds game was pretty dire. So, but for me, Livramento was the shining light. I know Longstaff got man of the match, and fair play to him. I thought he was sensational, but I don't think he was player of the match. Livramento's just gone on another level, another level, another level. He's phenomenal. It's probably between him and Reece James, between who is England's strongest right back at the moment. And given Reece James's injury record, he could be Tino. You know, this is why we've got to tie him down to a long-term contract, because Man City could come calling properly this time. They had a fleeting interest, didn't they, in the summer, but never really, you know, went and unsettled players and got into his agent's ear and tried to undercut players and then moan about not signing a centre half on deadline day. But yeah, Livramento for me now, but I want Trippier on the sidelines because he still has a huge influence on this squad, and that cannot be underestimated. There's going to be plenty of game time for Trips this season. There's going to be plenty of game time for Tino and Lewis Hall as well, because Tino, again, by going up that extra level, by showing his versatility. We weren't wholly convinced about his versatility at left back when he first signed, but we are now.
He's been brilliant since having to fill in. I mean, I remember speaking to you and several other fans when Lewis Hall was ruled out of the cup final, and you're going, oh, Mo Salah versus Tino Livramento. That's going to be an easy battle to win for Salah. And he had him in his pocket. And from that moment on, I mean, even the West Ham game prior, he kept Bowen really quiet as well. He's been tremendous at left back, and it's obviously an added element of competition for Lewis Hall, and obviously you've got Dan Burn who can fill in there as well. But yeah, Tino's just come on so much, and obviously defensively he's superb, but going forward, the way he twists and turns and just carries the ball, he kind of glides, and his delivery's getting better as well. And there's just so much more for him to give, so many more levels to go. And at the start of the transfer window, when that City link came out, I said, he's worth at least £100 million. He's
Yeah.
that good. And I got, how shall I say, feedback from not just City fans, but also Newcastle United fans saying your valuation's way off. It's not. Honestly, he is worth at least £100 million of anybody's money. And you're right, get him tied down to a bigger contract because you want to be building your squad around these players.
There isn't that many quality right backs around as well in world football at the moment. That's why the team on Merseyside got Frimpong. There's not that many around. There's not many options for real top right backs at the moment. So City will be after one because Rico Lewis isn't it. And I mean they're playing like midfielders in there to kind of dovetail that, which they're no strangers to do. I remember Fabian Delph was left back for ages, wasn't he, back in the day for City? So I mean it could work for them, and they're very good at doing that. But he's gonna be, if he carries on, wow, if there's even more improvement to eke out of him, gee, my word, yeah, we need to tie him down.
Yep, certainly. So Lewis Hall at left back, obviously he's had that injury that ruled him out for the second half of last season. He would have probably been, had he kept his form up, player of the season, because the first half of that season he was unbelievable. He was Newcastle's best player, and there were some dark days as well. It didn't all go to plan, but he was the shining light, the consistent performer of a really good level. And again, he's another one who's maybe surprised people the way he's developed. There was a lot of eyebrows raised with the price tag paid and for the price tag paid for Tino, but it's proven to be quite the double purchase. And he, again, is someone who's developed both defensively and offensively, and he's only going to get better. And that kind of partnership, whether it be with Gordon or Harvey Barnes, is one I'm really looking forward to seeing. But it's Lewis Hall, isn't it? When fit and firing, it's Tino on the right and Hall on the left.
Yeah. Again, this is probably the main reason why I mentioned the last Champions League campaign, because Lewis Hall was all over the place. Like I remember when we went to Dortmund, he got hooked at half time. He had his backside handed to him on a plate over there. He was woeful. Looked
I felt
like a
sorry
rabbit.
for him.
Yeah, he was like a rabbit in the headlights. He was all over the place. Had a real tough kind of loan spell, didn't he? Really, where you could have arguably made the case of not making that deal permanent. I don't think that was ever really going to be the case, but there was question marks around it at the time, wasn't there? But yeah, another player that's kicked on, and he'll be England's number one left back for many years to come. He's better than Lewis Skelly. Hence why Arsenal keep buying left backs or left-sided defenders. And Capia is an unbelievable signing for them, by the way. Left-sided centre back, but can fill in at left back with consummate ease. Yeah, great business there by them. But yeah, Lewis Hall, another one like Livramento, has come on leaps and bounds. He's been a fantastic journey, and yeah, long may it continue. His improvement has been tenfold. So yeah, can't praise him enough. Love him to bits. Yeah, great player, and yeah, he's hopefully going to be our left back for at least 10 years or so.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I think we could do with another left back of real quality to push him. I know Tino's there and can do that,
Yeah.
but his focus will be right back battling with Trippier and Emil Kraft. That does kind of leave Lewis Hall a free hit at the left back. So obviously you have Dan Burn as well. But for me, Dan Burn is the number one centre back. And I know they've got a Sven Botman, but I tell you what, Dan Burn is just getting better with age. I thought last season, and I know we're only a few games into this campaign, I thought he's probably peaked, scoring the goal in the cup final, England call up. But even though this season hasn't quite gone to plan, from what I've seen, it doesn't look like he's slowing down. It doesn't look like he's regressing. I think he's going to maintain the level of performance. And I know how good Botman is. The ability's there. Of course it is. But we've got injury concerns as well. Doesn't quite look like the same player. I think that's going to be maybe a slow burner to get him back to the level. But even when he does, he's got to get past Big Dan Burn. And this isn't sentiment. This is just based on pure performance and, okay, a little bit of form. Dan Burn, for me, is that number one choice at left-sided centre-back.
Do you know what? I think this is why you'll see a back five employed quite a lot this season. I think it's going to be a regular occurrence, so we can fit Burn and Botman in the same team, because it's a quandary. If Botman stays fit, he's our best centre back on sheer ability and whatever. He just is. He's levels above. Like, obviously, he's had a horrific time with injury and whatnot, so he's got to come back and almost sort of prove himself again, which I think he will. But he needs a run. Like, he went off at Leeds, didn't he? And it just seems like he's got kind of no luck whatsoever. But if he can. If he can put those injury woes behind him and get a good clear run like he did in the season where we finished fourth, this guy's one of the best centre backs in the Premier League. So I will always back him, because he's probably the best centre back I've seen play for Newcastle. That season when we finished fourth with him at the back, he just made everything look so easy. Don't get me wrong, I love Dan Burn. It's a shame they're both left-footed, because the best centre back pairing is probably Botman and Burn at the moment.
Well, I mean, your answer depends on the formation you're playing. For me, I think there is a chance we'll see five at the back. I think we'll also at times see two up top, or Wissa playing as the man furthest forward, and Voltemade playing as a kind of a number 10, and that intertwining. But for the purpose now, I do still think the majority of the setup will be as we've seen it under Eddie Howe, four at the back, three across the middle, your two wingers and one up top. But for you, are you suggesting that maybe the majority setup might be five at the back?
It's options, isn't it? It's options. And it's something. I think we actually now have the personnel to play five at the back better than what we did last season. With Voltemade and Wissa is probably more adept to that kind of five at the back, with Hall and Livramento being able to bomb on. You'd have Botman, Burn, and then Schär or Chow. And then you've got options in there as well. But the problem with five at the back is, where do you put Joe Linton? That's the only issue.
It's a big issue, but I'm also going to have to press you again, because this is Newcastle's strongest starting 11. I've gone with four at the back. What is Newcastle's strongest 11? Is it five at the back? Is it four at the back? Let us know in the comments, by the way, your opinion.
I mean, it's an interesting one. I mean, I don't necessarily like the five at the back. It didn't work well at Leeds, but then again, when you've got nothing up top, it's not going to work, is it? I would probably say four at the back is more of an adept way, but I think the five at the back will become more popular as the season progresses, especially when going out to Europe. When we've got to go to places like Marseille and Paris, and I mean, I would have liked more glamorous away ties. It was almost like my wife had done the draw: two in France, one in Germany, one in Belgium. Oh, thanks. It's hardly pathos, is it? But there you go. It's an interesting one. Like, out and out, just on sheer ability or form or whatever you want to do, I like Botman and Burn, but it doesn't really work. They did very well at Arsenal in the League Cup first leg together last season. But again, they still looked a bit caggy-handed on the right-hand side when Botman kept having to switch to his left foot, because he's got a wand of a left foot for the diagonals. But on sheer ability, I love Dan Burn. He's playing the best football of his career. He is a Newcastle legend. I loved his brace in the League Cup final. So yeah, it was one of them where he deserves his England call up. But there's not that many options for Tuchel at the back. So I'm going to be controversial. I'm still going to stick with Botman and Burn.
Okay, well, I mean, you put have some,
Which is going to be
agreeing with
so
that.
unpopular, by the way. But I think they're the best two on ability at the moment.
Well, it's your opinion. That's what matters. I mean, the five at the back does work at times, and I think you're right. We will see Eddie Howe use it when necessary, and then obviously one drops into midfield when Newcastle are going forward. And it worked perfectly against Arsenal, you know, in the cup final, didn't it? In the semi final. That was really when it worked at its best. Schär. Now, I've been Fabian Schär's biggest critic, and I've had to really eat my words because the past few seasons he's been absolutely superb. But I still do have some concerns over the pace and
Yeah.
his lapses. And it's, you know, very minuscule, but he does have those moments where he totally switches off. And against Liverpool, there was one in particular where instead of bringing the ball down or putting it in a touch, he headed it down towards Dan Burn, but Dan Burn was far too far away from it for that to be the right decision. Liverpool got it and broke on a counter, and thankfully nothing came of it. But it's little moments like that that happen too often for me. And look, he has surprised me. I think he's probably surprised most people. He deserves credit for the hard work. He's such a silky player, and his passing ability and shooting range is unbelievable. But I do think we are getting to the end game of Fabian Schär at Newcastle United. Now, going forward, until at least January, I think he probably will be the first choice right-sided centre back. But for me, I want to see Malik Thiaw get a few more minutes, and I want to see what he can do because I think he's kind of like Fabian Schär. He's just a little bit younger, and I think the pace is going to be the difference here. And he's going to have to get settled. He's going to have to be bed in. He had that little lapse in concentration himself against Liverpool, but other than that, he looked quite composed on the ball in what was a difficult game to come into. And I do think Malik Thiaw will be the first choice right-sided centre back in months to come. It's just when that happens. But again, given the rules of this episode, we're picking the strongest 11. So I'm going to go with Malik Thiaw at right-sided centre back with Dan Burn as the partner.
Are you threatened by Fabian Schär's handsomeness?
Not at all. I can
seem to have something
accept.
against him.
No, I can accept that he's probably the most gorgeous man on the face of the planet. But there is concerns. You know, I think I think people are a little bit maybe too scared might be the wrong word, but reluctant to call it out because overall he's done fantastic. But I do think he's the weak link in that back line. And look, it's just age catches up with everybody. You know, that's just life. But we're at the point in this project where there's no room for sentiment. You know, if Dan Burn was playing awfully, he'd be out. I don't care that he's come from Asda and then become this Newcastle United legend. You know, it's a lovely story, but I want what's best for Newcastle United. And I think right at this present point in time, the strongest starting 11 at the back is not Fabian Schär. It's just my opinion. It might be an unpopular one, but there's no room for sentiment. And I think Malik Thiaw, when he gets a few more minutes and games under his belt, he'll prove to be first choice. I want to know what you guys think in the comments. And obviously, Sam's going to tell me now. He's not looking like he agrees.
No, did you say Dan Burn came from Asda?
Well, he did. That's the story, isn't it?
It gives a whole extra layer to the term feeder club, doesn't it? Look, I think the slow kind of gradual introduction of Malik Thiaw was so crucial. If you just chuck him in now, he could get unstuck. I said this the other week. He's got errors in his defensive game. And like you hinted to there was a bit of a hint when he came on it against Liverpool. He is very good on the ball, but defensively there are frailties there. So I think you're right in what you say that it'll be a kind of gradual introduction, and then by the end of the season, Thiaw will be first choice along with probably Botman or Burn. World Cup year as well. I mean, we all want Dan Burn to make that squad, don't we? So. But again, Botman will have his eye on the Dutch squad as well. So it's a very tricky situation. That's why I think we'll end up at 5 at the back for a lot of this season.
But I hope it's 5 at the back for the right of the football club and not because Botman's knocking on the door and kicking up a fuss. I mean, you want that element of competition, but again, these decisions have to be made with what's right for the team as a whole,
Well,
not
how
just
will
because
do
you want
that?
to keep Botman, sweet. I mean, ideally, I would like them to have signed Mark Gay, to be quite honest. I think that would have been a brilliant signing. But anyway, it hasn't happened, and he'll be off to Liverpool on a free next summer. But interesting. So there you go. Centre backs. I knew centre backs would be one that would split opinions. It has here, and it will no doubt in the comments as well. So looking forward to hearing everyone's view on that. Let's move forward then into midfield. Midfield three, I think, speaks for itself. I don't think we need to spend too much time on the midfield three, to be honest. It's Tonali, Bruno, and Joelinton, right? Or is
Yes,
Ramsey an option?
love Ramsey. Again, him and Voltemada are the signings I'm most excited about. I really am, and again, it's another layer to options. Again, it's another layer to players being adaptable because he can play out wide, in a front three. He can play in midfield, and have tremendous energy. I think he'd be proven to be a lot more of a popular option this season than that of Willock, who still has a role to play. But yeah, it's just the three. And speaking of kind of progression, Bruno's leadership is something that's come on so much as well. When he first got the captain's armband, I wasn't a fan. I'll be honest. I think I probably said it on air at the time, but I don't think he needed it. But God, you just go to war for him, wouldn't you? You really would. I think he was probably ready to lamp someone that's just recently left Newcastle as well. When push came to shove, I just love him to bits, and just yeah, what a man. Yeah, you just go to war with him, wouldn't you? To follow him into the trenches. Again, levels, another level, another levels and layers, another level, another layer to his all roundedness as a player, developing that leadership skill. Incredible, but yeah, it is that three, and again, we miss Joe Linton at Leeds. He's a player that opposition fans and players absolutely hate playing against, and everyone needs every club, every team needs that. And again, progression and how much he's come on, and yeah, he's phenomenal. So it's one of the strongest midfield threes in Europe
It's for me the best midfield three in the Premier League when they're fit and in
by a
form.
mile.
Yeah. And then, like you said, we've got the depth. Lewis Smiley, big season for him, but he'll get plenty of playing time. Ramsey will be the man behind Joe Linton, offers something totally different. And this is it. Like it's all going to be game by game in many ways because Joe Linton and Ramsey, totally different players. And as you mentioned, Willock as well is the other man. So you've got three options kind of on that left side. Maybe they could have done with one more, maybe more defensively minded. But that's, by the by. Onto the wings then. And we haven't mentioned how good Tonali is. We don't need to. You guys know how good he
Yeah,
is.
he's just incredible. He's probably the best of the three as well.
I think so. And then they all complement each other really well, don't they? So on to the wingers and Sam, because again, Newcastle United have got the depth there, and that's going to make a huge difference this season. I think for many, it's again not one that needs much discussion, but again, other people will have their opinion. For me, it is Anthony Elanga on the right and Anthony Gordon on the left, although Harvey Barnes has done really well on that flank. And of course, Jacob Murphy had a brilliant season last campaign. And as we saw against Leeds, Eddie Howe is not afraid to drop the people that you think or I think might be first choice in those positions. I mean, we'll start with Elanga because I know you've been unimpressed by what you've seen so far. Your text rate to me has gone through the roof since
That's
he's
just
come
to
in.
wind you up.
Oh, I see. Just fishing, are you? Well, you're going to need a bigger
Work,
boat
bro.
because you've got a bite. Look, it hasn't gone as smoothly as I thought it would do, but we're only 3 games in. This lad's got talent. He's got pace to burn. And now with a target man to aim for. And I think that's one of the most important things. Had there been a striker, an out-and-out striker up top, I think Alanga would have 3 or 4 assists to his name. And that makes the difference.
Potentially. And also as well, he's been thrust into it. That there isn't that slow introduction. There hasn't been that slow introduction to the starting 11 that Howe normally does. There are a couple of exceptions. but those have been sort of through necessity over the years rather than choosing to do so. So I thought it was very interesting that he's just got thrust into it when you have Murphy there as well, who, as you say, had the season of his life last campaign. So yeah, you're right. His kind of challenge starts now, really, when there's an actual striker up top to supply. So it's now, yes, it has been an underwhelming start, but there's patience to be had with him. If we're still here in what, 5 games time, or the next, when the next international break comes round, and he still hasn't done much, and it's kind of all same old when you've had Wissa and Voltemada up there, then Murphy is probably got the shirt back. I think we'll be after a right winger this time next season as well, to be honest. Whether that, probably to replace Murphy, and to eclipse Alanga, but yeah, there needs to be some kind of patience involved with him, because, like you say, there's been nothing up top. There's been no focal point. There's been no one to play through. We've had tough games. Granted, we should have. There's an argument to be had that we should have won all 3. It's been disappointing, but again, being thrust into it, I don't know. I was surprised Murphy didn't start the season.
I mean, to eclipse Alanga, goodness me, that man going to be a star. There's no eclipsing him. He's going to
If
be a
you're bringing
star.
in new signings, they have to be improving the starting 11. So why
Well,
wouldn't you be eclipsing him?
well, because
And this
Alanga,
is because although Murphy still looks 25 years of age, he's now in his early 30s. So time is ticking for him. So it's going to happen, whether it's next summer, the summer after, or whatever. So
yeah, but
it's going to happen soon.
yeah, to replace Murphy, but I think Alanga
Yeah.
will be first choice for many years to come. He's a young man, and I think he's going to be unstoppable. I don't see them spending next summer to bring someone in to eclipse him. I think they'll bring in a player who will compete with him, but I think it will be difficult to find someone better than him for a price that works for everyone.
It ain't, mate.
I know. Well, we'll come back to Alanga in a few months and see who was right or
That's for
wrong.
next summer. But no. Look, I've been more than fair and balanced. He does need time. And look, Bavado aside, and Joe, and all that aside, you want to see him succeed and do well. And I think he's got some excuses on his side so far. He's been thrust into it. There's obviously nothing to aim for up top, because you've either got a player who wants to be dragged wide into his natural position, or you've got a cocker spaniel up there who's just chasing his tail. So yeah, now we've got something up in the centre. Then the kind of season starts now, in essence.
You've referenced Asula twice without actually giving him his name. You've said nothing and then called him a cocker spaniel.
No, nothing in a
God.
broader sense. I've always said Gasula's like a cocker spaniel with one ear up like that, one ear down, kind of
He's
chasing
like,
his stick.
I've
Lots
said
of
this.
energy and enthusiasm. He's adorable, but there's no real finesse, and
You could just be talking about Miguel Almiron, essentially. That's what he reminds me. That's who he reminds me of. Left wing, it's obviously Anthony Gordon. I mean, he's just he's one of the most important players in this squad. So I don't think there's any discussion there. It is Anthony Gordon. However, given that he's suspended for the next 3 games, Harvey Barnes has a huge opportunity and he has to take it. He really, really has to take it. And I'll be thoroughly disappointed if it is a case that Gordon just walks back in. Now, obviously, last season when he had that suspension and then he picked up an injury, I felt really frustrated that Anthony Gordon got back into the starting 11. I thought he was kind of rushed back into it because of Newcastle's need to win games and qualify for the Champions League and what have you. But I thought Barnes had been superb. Obviously, came in against West Ham, and I thought the form that he picked up, he was brilliant in the final, and he's scoring really important goals, creating chances as well. I want to see the same this time around. For when Anthony Gordon returns after the suspension, Eddie Howe's got a decision to make, and it's not one that simply goes, yes, Gordon's back in. So come on, Harvey, take your chance and give Eddie Howe a headache.
I mean, even before then, this time last year, Harvey Barnes was earning us points on his own. So the whole sort of taking the chance shtick, I don't really buy, because he kind of has. His numbers are good. I mean, again, like I wasn't a huge fan of Barnes being brought in, but he's been good. He's had unbelievable moments, like ridiculously like should be legendary moments.
I don't disagree. And he's another one that I have backed from the moment he arrived at this club in the face of some fierce criticism. And I said, look at his stats. Look at what he does. He
Oh,
will come good. And you're preaching to the choir. I absolutely love him. But I do think Eddie Howe puts Anthony Gordon ahead of him. I think probably on ability, you could argue fair enough. I think it's just going to be really intriguing to see what he does once that suspension ends. And I just think, as good as Barnes has been, he needs to realise that actually you've got 3 games to keep Gordon out of that starting 11. Because I think if he doesn't produce, I think then Gordon walks straight back in that starting 11.
yeah, he will. Big season for Gordon as well. Huge season, because especially towards the end of last season, he was just trying to do too much. Things weren't working. It was all a bit disjointed, and it wasn't really going that well, was it? But yeah, big season for him, because there's competition in that wide areas for England as well. That's what they've got their eyes on. So yeah, I would agree it's Gordon. But again, that's the one area of the pitch where we've had genuine competition, like throughout the whole PSR debacle, which is going to be alleviated somewhat now over the next few windows.
Certainly so. That leads us then into centre forward, and isn't it nice to have 2 centre forwards of real quality who want to play for Newcastle United? And I think we'll see a lot of rotation this season. I think they are very different players, and it gives Eddie Howe options. I think, as I said at the start, we will see times when they play together, but for the majority, I think we'll have one up top. And it's really interesting. I think this one's going to split a bit of opinion as well. I think, to begin with, it will be Wissa.
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll see a very slow introduction of Altamade, and he'll be kept happy, for want of a better phrase. He'll understand why, but because there'll be plenty of opportunity. I mean, we've got the League Cup coming up, obviously Champions League, plenty of games. But I do think, given the pace of the wingers, given the crosses Alanga put in the first 3 games, I think it's just ready made for Wissa. Obviously, we're talking pure ability. Then yes, Altamade in time is, of course, the probably the out and out choice. But for now, strongest starting 11, it's Yoane Wissa with that number 9 on the back of on the back of his shirt.
Yeah, not a fan of that. But there you go.
You're not a fan of that? Why?
Of Wissa taking the 9. That's
Yes.
what I'm not. That's what I'm not a fan of.
Why?
No. No, not for me. I thought it should have been left blank this season, and then maybe Voltamada, depending on how this year's goes, to take it next year.
Oh, another man to prove you wrong. Another man to shut you up. Wissa, 20 goals this season.
What have I said about Wissa? All I've said is about his shirt number, which is in the grand scheme of things.
Why isn't he deserving of the number 9?
Well, let's not forget he's not behaved very well this summer, and I just think that shirt should have been kept blank this year. You got to earn it. But yes, there are some strikers in the recent past that haven't earned it. But I would have just liked to have seen it left alone this year, and then next summer.
That was never going to happen in the world of PSR, where every penny counts. You cannot have the famous number 9 shirt left blank. Never going to happen in a million.
I didn't think of it like that. That's a good point. I didn't think of it like that. I don't think that would have impacted shirt sales, so I'm not sure how much water that holds. But
just the number 9 in general, I think, when marketing is such a key part of football, then you can't.
So then, why wouldn't you have your record signing given the number 9?
I think Wissa was probably maybe hinted that it was his, and maybe Voltamade, because he's picked 27 again, hasn't he? So maybe there's, again, as always, there seems to be some sort of link to that. No, Ramsey there's a link to the number he's got more because it was just his first ever shirt as a senior pro and what have you. And obviously, we know Bruno. Look, Wissa, he'll take that, but he'll know it carries a lot of responsibility, and he'll be wanting to show people like you exactly why he deserves it, and he's going to prove you wrong. He's going to be
Don't put words in my mouth. Because I was agreeing with you then. I don't think your opinion was controversial. I think it was pretty logical and pretty standard, to be honest. Wissa will start. I think when we go 5 at the back, that's when you'll see them both. Because Voltemada's not a natural. He was more of a 10, and you think to look at. There's your big strapping number 9, and which is why I would have probably preferred your chap ahead of Wissa, to be honest. Wissa will do very well this season, very well. So he may get 20 goals this season, Wissa, and it wouldn't be a shock whatsoever. But the whole argument I remember seeing online was, oh, they're too similar, Strand Larsen and Voltemada. They're really not. They're similar because of their stature. They're totally different players. But obviously Wolves sang that infamous song, and now we couldn't have him because we got told. So yeah, 2 good signings. Really excited with Voltemada, as I expressed to you in strong terms. I didn't really see it happening, and this is the great thing about Newcastle since the takeover, because all the bluster and that happens online and all these in the nose and all these just I won't say what I was going to say. I'll self-edit, but there are some really unlikable people disguising themselves as journalists on the internet of late, which charge exorbitant fees for appearances. But there you go. And the best deals are done where they just smack you in the face out of nowhere. Tonali, and you know, there's been a couple others as well. The chap who took the number 14 a couple of years back, he was the same. Put a disgrace on James Perch's shirt, but yeah, it was brilliant because I think it was the best option we could have had. But I just assumed we'd mentioned him in the summer fleetingly, but we never really went in depth because I don't know, like you, I just assumed he was going to Bayern Munich. I thought that would get done because Bayern Munich just that's just typical Bayern Munich. They mop up all this German talent, bully the other teams into getting these players, and there you go. It's done with. It's been happening for decades with Munich, but yeah, what a coup that is, and he will need time to adapt, but you know, like when the Swedish fella came, he needed time to adapt as well. And we had Wilson there who outscored him in that first season when we finished 4th. And I think it'll be similar with Wissa and Voltemada. I think eventually next season will be that when we really see Voltemada come to prominence once he's had time to adapt his game and kind of learn, because we have essentially bought him to be that focal point, that central striker, and not necessarily a 10. There will be times where he's needed, like I mentioned. I think you'll see him both when we play a back 5, and I think that'll work very, very well, and I think that will add a lot to that kind of formation, which hasn't worked very well consistently. There's been the odd game where we've used it and it's worked, but then we've tried it again the next game and it's just fallen flat on its backside. I think with these kind of players, it will work a lot better. And yeah, it's exciting. He's a for a 6'6" guy, he's an absolute wizard with his feet, and it was the best option we could have got.
Yeah.
I mean, he will be better than Delap. He'll be better than Pedro given time. Honestly, I'm so excited about this signing.
Well, I'm glad, and I think everyone is. We'll have an introduction of Nick Voldemort from someone who watches the Bundesliga, so I'm intrigued to hear what he's got to say, especially on the question that he was signed for free last summer, and they've managed to sell him for £69 million. So I'm that's the one thing, but football, and I'm looking forward to an expert telling me that there's nothing to worry about there. But yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do. I haven't watched too much of him, but it's definitely a coup. If Bayern Munich wanted him, then that's enough for me to suggest this lad has got talent. But as we said there, Vista probably going to get the nod.
Well, this time last year, Bayern Munich wanted Eric Dyer, so steady on.
Well, yeah. I mean, I suppose you
Hey,
can
they
get
got
certain
him.
things wrong. But yeah, and I'm also, by the way, just on the mention of Wolves, I'm looking forward to seeing my other man, because Wolves have got the two strikers that I've been talking about all summer.
Yeah.
Signed Genks Arakudere. Mate, he's like a Gary Lineker. He just loves being in the box. I see you pulling that face, but in terms of just being, he doesn't really leave the box. He's just in the box, and you put it into him, and it's in the back of the net. Now, probably a little bit easier to do that in the Belgium top flight than it is in the Premier League, but hopefully, just so my picks live up to my expectation, I don't get any grief. He does very well, just not next Saturday, if possible. Has a stinker, as does Strand Larson. But anyway, there's Newcastle United's strongest starting 11 with many variables to why we have picked them. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. Shall we run through them? Well, I'll run through mine. You can run through yours, Sam. Ramsdale for me, Tino Livramento, Malik Chiao, Dan Burn, Lewis Hall. Midfield three of Bruno Tonali and Joe Linton. Gordon on the left, Alanga on the right, with Yoane Wissa to begin with up top. Sam, can you remember yours?
Yeah, just the same, except I had Botman and Burn at the back. Obviously not ideal, but look, options is the key this season.
And
we've got
Pope.
And yes, I had Pope. I was tempted to put in Murphy as well, but again, that would have been to wind you up. But it's this next month is big for Alanga, as we said, isn't it? Now that there's strikers and options up front, and yeah, it's positive. We can get back to being positive, looking at what happens on the pitch, and not having to worry about transfer sagas. And yeah, so it's good. It's good. Back to the football and not the awful business of it.
Indeed. Right, ladies and gents, that's enough from me and Sam for this week. Do leave us a rating and review. Do get into the comments. Do share it amongst your Newcastle United supporting friends and family. And do take advantage of your discounted exclusive offer on your NORD VPN plan. No risk with a 30-day money-back guarantee. And myself and Sam will be back next week. See you then.